Next computer. All right. Okay. Got a couple of minutes, but now I want to talk to them about the format. I sent out a pretty extensive email to everybody about the hybrid format. Let me walk you through how it works in your particular course. This course meets on Mondays and Wednesdays, okay? Monday is a ground day or physical class day. Wednesday is a virtual day, which means I'm going to be screencasting, but I'm going to be in Oklahoma City. And if you want to attend live, you watch the screencast, or you can watch the screencast after I've saved it and recorded it and put it on YouTube and put the link over here in the announcements. So that'll be up to you. Got it? Okay, now I do this, and I went through all the explanations of why I do it, so I don't think I need to repeat that. Now, everything here, and I'll just show you here the announcement right now. For example, if somebody wanted to attend it today, I've got that link, which is the invitation, and you can access these screencasts from just about any other device. And I would say it's probably not a bad idea to do that, especially if there's material we cover, which we probably will, that you may want to take a look at, okay, on a second or third time. So once the screencast is there, you can look at the recording as many times as you want. It's up to you. And we'll just do this throughout. So today, I'm recording this, and then I'll have to process it and post it to YouTube, so it'll be there. So if you think you missed something, you can go back and look. And then on Wednesday, at class time, I'll cast this from Oklahoma City, and if you want to watch, you can. If you choose to watch at a later time, you can as well. Okay. Now, let's talk about Canvas, and everybody ought to be enrolled, ought to be in Canvas. Well, before I do that, let's talk about getting into Excel and Access and the cloud application. The university decided, rather than having those applications on your computer, that they'll have them in the cloud. So if you look on your machine, you should see a little icon. I think it's green, okay, and it says VMware. You see it? Okay, click on that, and it may ask you for a username and a password, and the user is just your station name, which is your machine. So, for example, you're at H25. Now, you may have it. Yes. It's not working? Is it not on, or what do you mean? Okay, there's plenty of room up front. Oh, sweet, yeah. So come on up and use one of these. And there's one over there. There's some over here as well. So if you run into one that's not working, we've got a few extra. Okay. How many of you have gotten into VMware? Okay. Did it ask you for a password and username? Okay. The username is your station number, which is your computer station number. For example, you're going to be H12. Okay. This is lab H. Now, and then on password, just click. Just don't even put anything here. Just go on in, and you should start to see the VM. You should get a little thing that shows you the OBU the OBU screen, and then you should be able just to get the VMware and get the Excel. So we got one chair here, or we got two chairs over there. I'm sorry? Yeah, we'll need to turn them on. Okay. How many of you have your little OBU thing up that has Excel on it as a software? Yeah, the VMware, yeah. You should have the VMware. VMware is just simply a cloud application. That's all it is. Okay. Yeah. Now, Once you've done that, you ought to have Excel and access those two applications on your computer. Got them? Yeah.
Whatever we did when we logged in.
Okay, let's close that off. Okay.
I have Shen put in your name.
You may find some issues with just logging into Canvas per se. If you haven't, I often have to do it twice to get it to work. So if you run into that, don't let it be an issue. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Everybody should be logged into Canvas. It might take you a couple of times. Okay. Log into it, and then come over to BISS 1123B. That's this section of business problem analysis. Okay. And we'll talk about navigating now. At the same time, again, you need to get into the VMware, and you may, if someone in another section had the VMware up, it may be necessary for you to shut your machine down and restart it. Okay. This is not my set of rules. It was the IT people. Anybody in the VMware got your VMware up and going? Got Excel access on stuff? Yes? Okay. Logged into Canvas. Okay. You're already in the VMware. It'll be a little bit of a trial and error. Now, let me talk some more about the course. And again, remember, I'm recording this, so here's what will happen after this session, class session is over. I'll go and I'll process this, and then I'll post. I'll process it, and then so I can upload it to YouTube, and then I'll post it at YouTube, and then I'll put a link here in the announcement. So if you feel like you missed something, whatever, don't get too shook up about it. The main thing I want to do is, first of all, walk us through getting into the VMware and getting that set up, okay? And that was just to make sure you get the Canvas period first of all. So I want to talk some about Canvas. If you've not used it before, or you've used it maybe once or so, it can be a little bit hard to kind of follow what's going on with this LMS. So I'm going to walk you through it. First of all, I think the announcements, that's pretty much, that's kind of like, we wouldn't be able to get that. Here's one thing that will kind of fool you, and it's called syllabus. So you click on that, and what the syllabus actually is this is a list of assignments, okay, that are due, and you'll see, and you can click on that assignment, and it will give you some instructions. It will usually give you the instructions, and when they're due, the financial ratios quiz will say how many points are. and what it's drawn from and all that business. Got it? The syllabus will walk you through all of the assignments that are in the course. So you click on the syllabus part. It's an easy, quick way. So, okay, what's due this week or next week or whatever to click in here and see it. And then, now, let me, one other thing. You're going to see some stuff on my screen today that is not on yours. Don't let that confuse you because I got an instructor screen and you have a student screen. But I have to be on the instructor so I can do some things I need to do. So this will show you, okay, how many points, yeah, how many attempts. You keep the highest, you get 2 attempts, and it's due February 8th. Got that? So so if you want to know quickly what's going on, go to the syllabus part. If you want to see, obviously, announcements, we've seen that. And now, you also want to click on a thing called modules. What the modules is a lineup of stuff in the course that we covered either topically, okay, or just simply on a chronological basis, like week by week. So if you want to see what's going on, you know, in week 1, what's due, etc., okay, you'll be able to see that. Okay? Now, that's pretty much it in terms of some, oh, one other place, files. All right? I'm often going to mention a file in class that's typically what I like you to do is I'll walk you through one of these cases, okay? Show you what to upload, and you upload it, and we're done. Because I really believe you learn a lot more if you're relaxed, you're not worried about keyboarding, and I want you to understand what's going on in the case because we're trying to accomplish some things here. First of all, get you comfortable using Excel, get you comfortable using Access, but cover some typical or common business problems. That's why I call this business problems analysis, because we're going to run into in our textbooks some of those typical kinds of things. Now, there are 2 textbooks for this course that are required. One is this Solve It 6.0, okay? Now I'm going to be leaving it. This will be the last semester because they're just becoming more and more difficult to find. And then the other text is Stephen Few's text, Show Me the Numbers. He talks about charting, graphs, tables, etc. So we emphasize also, how do I take the data about a problem and present it in a way that makes sense to somebody, okay? And that's what we're trying to do. So we're going to look at some common business problems, typical kinds of things a company runs into. We'll do some things like, for example, we'll do a break-even analysis. We'll do a sensitivity analysis. We'll put our toes in the water with Access. I have a few Access cases. But what I'm going to do each time is I'm going to walk you through the case and the solution. So when you come to class, you need to bring your textbook, or you're really not going to get the benefit of what's going on. Now, the files will also have a skeleton files. You say, what do you mean? Let me go down here for a second and I'll show you. You're going to see one of these that says Solve It 6.0 Solutions, Solve It 6.0 Students. You see some of these have a green check, others don't. Those that have that, those are unpublished, okay? Now, if you want to see the skeleton file, like the start of a case, you can click at this and look at any one of the files that are associated with the case. There are 13 Excel files that deal with 13 Excel cases. There are, I think, 8 or 9, maybe 10 Access, but we do the first 6. But the point being is this. On the solution files, which I will always, okay, here, upload this as I go through, or I'll say, okay, we're going to open this, I'll show you. I save you a lot of data input. The authors have a lot of these cases where they want you to just input a whole bunch of data, and I'm not going to waste your time doing that, okay? I'd rather you spend your time understanding the problem that we're trying to deal with and why we're trying and what we're trying to get accomplished. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, let's take a look for just a minute, and I want to go back over here to the modules. Okay. And I have this first one, I have this little welcome module, and I have a whole bunch of resources in here. All kinds of stuff. Course expectations, readings of materials, course texts, about late work, posting of grades, okay? The point distribution, there's an XLS function paper. We'll talk about that later. It's not that big of a deal. The Solvent student files. I have some other resources. I'm going to give you two types of quizzes or exams. One's going to be material drawn from what's on the website, okay, or the Canvas room, and then the other will be quizzes that are drawn from the Stephen Few text. So when you see Few, that's that one, show me the numbers, that text. So you're going to have those two. And a lot of the resources are in here. You'll be using those for some of the exams. Now, many of the exams or quizzes, like the financial ratios quiz, is based on case number 4. And when you get your textbook, you should have it. You'll see the case 4 deals with a company that has to compare two firms using the financial ratios. So I have a quiz that covers that. So you're going to see I kind of blend the two of them together. I also have some other resources there. We're going to have one case where we look at some accounts receivable, some aged, what we call aged accounts receivable, and we'll talk about, you know, how does that all work out in the real world. And I've got a couple of resources here in terms of how the likelihood of collecting debt as it ages, and then the additional sales to cover bad debt. So I'll usually have those resources, and I'll refer to them as we work through it. Got some information on mapping, and one of the exercises you'll do here is going to work with some very, very, very rudimentary but easy to use mapping, and you're going to do some spatial analysis of a business. So it'll kind of add to what's going on. Now, I want to show you one thing here, if I can find it, and I'll talk about this for just a second. This is a file that deals with a phenomenon called Anscombe's quartet, and I'm going to download that rather than try to render it out. And one of the reasons that we focus on how do I present data, and you can go look through this file a little bit later when you're on there, is this. You'll notice that I have these data, okay, and these are from 4 sets of data where I have X and Y. So I have some data that we assume are related in some linear fashion, okay. And so we've gotten some data. We've computed some statistics: the mean, the variance, and the correlation. And you can see they're all spot on. Okay, but watch what happens when we go to each of these charts. Here's the chart for data 1. Here's the chart for data 2. Here's the chart for data 3, and here's the chart for data 4. When I visually portray them, they look strikingly different. So one of the reasons that we're going to spend so much time in the Few book, and it's that great big book, you know, that you look like you could carry as a weapon, okay, and hit somebody, or as a doorstop. Stephen Few is the absolute master of how do I take a set of data and present it. Because one of the things you'll be asked to do all the time through your career is 2 things. 1, analyze some information that's been given to you, or 2, really 3 things, or 2, present some data and tell a story, okay, or 3, do both. You'll be paid for your ability to look at data. And you hear people talk all the time about, you probably hear that, about dashboards and those types of things. That's the world you're going into. And depending upon your level in the company and what your company business is, you'll have a dashboard. And that's the 4 or 5 things that you need to look at and know every day. You'll be asked to take data and portray them visually so you can tell a story, so you can tell your bosses what's going on, or you can convince a client of something to do. And we'll see this over and over as we go through and we do some work with charting. So this is based on Anscombe's famous article. I'll go back here for just a second. From 1973, when he basically, and that was in the American Statistician, where he basically said, we have these abilities to compute data, but we're not developing the skills to portray them visually. And people respond to visual cues, okay? People who absolutely have no skills in math can watch the weather report see what's going on, and because they have such a tremendous skill in presenting that data visually, they can see, oh, okay, it's going to be hot here, it'll be colder here, it's going to be rain, it'll be snow, all that stuff. Those folks have really tuned into that. Those of you who are finance majors will find your ability to look at a set of trading data, intraday versus 10-year, 5-year, to discern, well, what does this trend look like? What are we looking at? What are we seeing? Is it trending upward? Is this just a minor tick? Whatever. So this is Anscombe's article said, we got to make sure that our ability to crunch all these numbers doesn't outrace our ability to understand them, because that's the most important thing that we can do. So now, this is also an interesting article or a resource. We'll take a look at it here. This is this takes you over to a Wikipedia, but this is one of the first known uses of mapping to chart some type of phenomena. And this was done by a man who was a doctor there in London. They were having a cholera outbreak, and nobody knew what caused it. They suspected there was something in the air, okay? This is the 1850s, okay? They weren't quite sure. The people in the 1850s in the cities had their own pollution problem. You could step in it quite easily. And then came the horseless carriage. And everybody said, hurrah, until they realized, carbon emission is just about as bad as manure from a horse. So everybody has their own pollution problems. And I'm sure if we go to whatever renewable source people say we've got, there's always some kind of unintended consequence we get. But he began to chart, where are people getting sick? And what he found was it was centered around a particular water station that was there in London. In London, as it developed as a city, it was cheaper for them, rather than try to put piping into everybody so everybody had water. If you wanted water, well, you'd pay the city. Rich people could afford it, but nobody else could. But you had basically a giant hydrant, okay, that was used to fight fires, plus you could turn the thing on and you could get water for your home, and then you carried your water. Much better than having none. And a lot of people didn't have indoor plumbing. And so the cholera is carried through water. So he began to chart this to find out what's going on. Well, let's look at a little bit more modern version of this type of thing, and you'll see it's kind of an interesting thing. I have a chart for you over from, let's see, I'll find that. Here we are. This is the U.S. Census data visualization gallery. Picture's worth 1,000 words, all the data tables in the world. But people can look at these and start to understand the idea of a thermal map, okay, a pie chart. Here's a thermal, okay, and it shows basically concentrations based on some type of phenomena or something that they're charting there. This lets you drill down and take a look at data related to this particular area. Okay, this is a nice little pie chart. Got a lot of different things. So you can see as you scroll on down over there, lots of different ways to present the data. I think this is the census flows. And I think the darker the blue, I'd have to look at the legend on it, but the darker the blue, I think, is the greater the population growth. So one of the things that we're going to talk about, and we'll cover there, is when I present a set of data, does it make sense? Can I tell a story? Can I use it to persuade somebody or to inform somebody? And also your ability to be a good consumer of that type of stuff. Okay? So that's something we're really, really going to emphasize a lot. Now, you're going to see as we walk through, okay, some different resources. And if you look, you'll see resources for BISS 1123 exams. There they are. Okay, so the exams and the quizzes that are covered, those are the resources that you'll need to pull from them. Now I have a take this one up here for just a second. Okay. I have a supplemental website for the course where I've got some stuff stored. There will be some times you'll need to use it. And it's just an old Google website I have where I collect stuff. And you can just go in there, follow through, and there it is. Okay? So I have that resource for you as well. So a lot of resources here for you to draw on. Now, the point distributions, all that business, that's all covered in the syllabus. So you'll see, and you can, in the course syllabus, and then it's all laid out in the syllabus here, that listing of assignments. And I wanted to show you one thing. We'll talk about this. This is a graphic I always like to show everybody. This is called the analytical cube. And what we try to do to understand our business is we try to look at it in terms of two things: dimensions, okay, and what we would call measures. Dimensions: who are my customers? Where are they located? How much money did they spend? That's a measure. What's their gender? What's their income level? Do I know anything about their political affiliation? Do I know what they bought last week from me, if they did? Is there a particular time of day they visit my website? These are all things about my customer that I want to know. Okay. Then we have measures. How much did they buy? What did they buy it up? And so as you look at the analytical cube, you'll see when you hear people talk about slicing and dicing data, that's how we visualize it. And then we start to get these finer cuts to answer some questions. And those are queries. And we ask them things like, okay, how much of this did we sell in 2016, etc. When you start to see that, then you'll understand, okay, how we can use two things to really help our company. One is, once we know our customer pretty well, we can achieve some, what we would call customer intimacy, or some kind of customer relationship management at a high level. The other, okay, is that we can get a sense of our transactions. How do they occur? When do they occur? And can we improve them? Okay? This is the world. I didn't invent it. This is what business is about. If someone told you it's about who you know, I'm sorry. It is to a certain extent, but that stops when you can't compete in the market. And every company that's out there today, they're competing on the basis of their analytical skills, their ability to find people that want their product and to sell them, because everybody's advertising. There are all kinds of outlets out there to get your goods and wares in front of people. So if you don't understand the customer, or you don't understand the transactions that occur, and you don't understand then how they impact back inside your firm, your sustainability is probably in great doubt. When I go and work with a client, I ask them, what are the 5 things you need to know? When they can't tell me, which is usually about 90% of the time, it tells me all I need to understand about where they need to be doing some thinking about. Why am I in business? What's my value proposition? Why do people pay me money to do what I do? And who pays me that money? And how do they pay me? And how often? And how much? Now, you and I are normal human beings, so we had to go to school to learn this stuff. People like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, they're just geniuses. Steve Jobs, when he was at Apple his first time, okay, was all about product design. He was all about making and designing beautiful things, and he did. Then when they went public and the Wall Street people ran him off, he came back a second time. He came back a second time after he basically revolutionized the movie industry, Pixar Corporation, and all the stuff they do, all these things you see now, the graphics, everything, he really got that going. Apple asked him to come back. He came back, and instead of going back again and worrying about design, he became probably one of the world's leading experts in supply chains, manufacturing, and logistics. Because he knew, if I sell stuff and I can't get it to people on time, or I can't get enough of it to people, there's no point in me selling it. And so And that really became the focus. Although, you know, you and I had seen when he did a product presentation, it was all about, and you think this guy's a real marketing genius, and he is, but he understood something quite important. It doesn't matter how much I sell of an item. If I don't get it to the customer, bad news. I tell students who say, what area out in business might be one that's really important? I would say probably one that's going to offer some great opportunities for people would be logistics. Let me ask you a question. Can any of you estimate for me what percentage of the world's goods, manufactured goods, are shipped via water? 90%. That's why we're all concerned and upset about what's happening over in the South China Sea, over there by Korea and Japan, because that's one of the world's highways of goods and services. The percentage of goods that travel by train, not impressive, but a big volume. The percentage of goods that are carried by trucks. Next time you're out on the interstate or you see a semi-truck go by, remember, they're taking something that they ordered, maybe even something you wanted, because they're just a piece of the leg. When UPS shows up or FedEx shows up at your door and drops off, there's a tremendous amount of work and brain power that went into creating that system. It's the same with airlines. At any given time, there are 12,000 flights up in the air. That's juggling a lot of stuff, isn't it? And one foul up can take that whole chain, one bad set of weather, and everybody's waiting for hours to get their flights. So there's some great opportunities out there, and this is the world of business. So you don't have to be a mathematical genius, but you do have to have an understanding of your firm and understanding of your customers, and you have to be able to understand those numbers and deal with them. And I'm not trying to turn you into a geek or anything like that, but I do know this: if you're not comfortable with this, you may find a pretty good job, but if you want to own your own company or you want to go high in a company, it's just going to be the way that it has to work, because firms compete on the basis of analytics. Just the smallest inflection point can really change a company and its future. So I've got some good resources there for you to think about and take a look at. And again, there are just, all I can tell you is that information, other than people, information is the most important thing that any company has. When an employee quits or gets laid off, the average employee, they take with them about $25,000 of knowledge. That's pretty expensive. The reason that your company, if someone they hire you, want you to be in the industry a while, is so you understand it. 50 years ago, even 25, 30 years ago, if we said, okay, let's take the top Fortune 100 and look at the basis of their wealth. Their wealth is based on solid stuff. How many factories do I own? How much inventory have I got? How many manufacturing plants do I have? How many fleets of cars have I got? Today, 80% of a company's wealth is in things like its brand, logo, customer lists, a proprietary software or systems or processes, stuff up here. Even the most simple thing like that hand dispenser, somebody had to design it. Somebody had to figure out, well, okay, if we design it, can we run a long production line to make them? And then who could make it? And how much do we sell it for? And how much do we put in there? And what kind of tensile strength should the plastic be? That's a highly information-laden product. So you've got to become comfortable with working with that. If you can't, you'll be somewhat limited in what you can do. Doesn't mean, again, you have to be a geek or a mathematician, but you do have to understand what's going on in your company. And one of the reasons we put you through this course is so we can show you some of the typical problems that occur, and then find some ways to collect data, analyze them, and put together something that tells us and gives us an information product that we can work with or deal with. And it's this whole thing, if it's a little overwhelming to you, okay, Trust me, I've been part of all this, okay? And I can tell you, it just blows me away. 2007, there was just Twitter, Facebook. They were just kind of on the horizon. Today, they're some of the most valuable companies in the world. Now, what's a Twitter account? So what if Kim Kardashian has no talent? Is she a great singer? Dancer? She's what? She's famous because she's famous. And she's got how many millions of people that follow her? And so she says to an advertiser, hey, I've got all these people that follow me. Oh, you have eyeballs. Okay. I think Facebook, the last count, has, I think, 2 billion customers. And wow, the value of those customers, what is it? Well, Facebook sells a lot. The master of all of this is Amazon. They are the absolute total masters of all of this. They are so good. Their Amazon Web Services are so good that a lot of governments, including the United States government, use their product. They are the absolute masters at selling stuff online. And not only that, getting it to you. So we want to give you some of the classical stuff, but we want to get you really thinking about what kind of world you're going into out there. I don't care what business it is, how small or how large. Everything affects everybody. Rob's across the street over here. They sell barbecue, right? He's impacted by the price of grain. Because if the price of grain is too expensive, his barbecue gets pretty expensive. And if it gets too expensive, people quit buying it. You have to come to grips with that and understand it. That's the reason why, if you have a heart for people and you care about people and you treat them well as a business person, you are a superstar. You know, think about this. You go out on Christmas with your family. You go to a restaurant. You sit down for a meal at Christmas time. And the person comes in and says, well, it's going to be about 3 hours. Or they come and go, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot your order. Are you happy? No, you're angry, you're stressed. So those people have shortened your life. So getting that food to those people, in a good condition is as loving and caring and Christian thing as you can possibly do. You can feed 5,000 people too. So as business people, having the courage to be in a business or go start one and having the courage to treat people well is a tremendous, tremendous skill and makes you as valuable as anybody we would ever produce from this school. You can probably do more good than anybody. And if you have a heart for missions, this is the right major, because most countries now will not let people in if they haven't any kind of a whiff that they've got a degree in theology, philosophy, or anything like that. They will not let them in. Why? Because they know they'll probably be proselytizers. I've had several students who've gone, particularly in the Middle East, who've gone and worked for firms and done underground churches. Okay? So if that's something you want to do, you're in the right place. Or if you want to go out and just make the world a better place, this is the place to be. Okay, now I want to take it just a second and look at, we'll go back over here, and we'll look at what we've got coming up. And I gave you some of the resources that are out there. Well, before I do that, here's some resources. Harvard Business School and MIT Sloan, the Christian Business Faculty Association. I would encourage you to go over and take a look at those and visit them on a regular basis. I also hope that you'll do something that you would do if you were an art student. If you were an art student, okay, I would say to you, well, part of your education is that you look at great paintings or great sculptures. Why? To see how the masters do it. So the next time you go to Walmart, think about this. They carry about 35,000 items. How did it all get there? Trucks. And how many countries are represented in there? Thousands, probably hundreds of countries, products represented. How's that all done? Pulled together. That's a miracle. It's a modern miracle that you and I can experience that kind of life. That we go, sit down. The classic is when it's Sunday and my wife and I said, "Where are we gonna go eat? What do we want? You want to have fish? You want to go barbecue? You want hamburgers? You want to have chicken? You want to have chilies?" Unbelievable. So when you visit some of these businesses, start to ask yourself, how do they do this? How do they accomplish these kinds of things? How are they able to get that many products there on time in the way I want it? How does a restaurant juggle all those people in there with all those orders and all that cooking and all those things? Then you'll start to think like a business owner. You'll be in the mindset where we want you to be. So I encourage you to do that as we go on through the course. Now, I want to take just a couple of seconds or so and run through the syllabus. So I'm going to look, and remember, we've got the little files area. Okay, and this is section B. 99% of the time, everything you need to know about the course is in there. And I have the schedule there for you as well as my office hours. And I also, there will be days on virtual days, I will probably say, okay, I'm going to block off this many hours for virtual office. I'll send you a link and you can come and you can video cast if you want. You can just simply do a screencast discussion. I can share a screen or answer a question. So I'm there if you have those kinds of questions, okay? Which means that, if you have problems, you can get help pretty quickly. So you don't just have to stop by my office. Now, I want to go to the point distribution part, and I think I also have that out here in Canvas. So we're going to go back out here for just a second. And point distribution, we'll talk about that. Now, I apologize about the heat in here. I know it's very uncomfortable. But perhaps someone knows your eternal destination and is preparing you. I'm just kidding you. There's the points. There's 1,000 points in the course. That tells you there are 13 access cases, 13 Excel cases, 6 access cases, and then quizzes. They're worth spatial analysis exercise. That's 45. Then the final, and I've got all kinds of information here. So you can, if you want, work ahead. There's really no reason for you to not turn your work in on time, because you can work ahead if you want to. And if you can't be here because you've got an athletic event or something like that, you can still see the recording, okay? And so you can see how we get something done. Makes sense? Now, I know it's crowded and hot in here, and I know you're kind of running down. So let's see if there's anything else. Let's go back over everybody to the modules. And let's look at week 0. Now, XLS 1, 2, and 3 are XLS. Those are Excel cases. 1 and 2 are going to be due on the 5th, and then case 3 is going to be due. Okay, I put here 2. 1 and 2 are due on the 5th. Where did I put 3? Oh, here it is, 3. 3 will be due on the 15th. And you'll see when I do the very first case on Wednesday on the screencast how I'm approaching the course. Okay. Now, again, you could see. Now, one of the things about this course that's a challenge is that we're going to come down near the end, the last few weeks, and I'll give you big assignments to complete and to work on, and time to work on your final if you want to do that. And I won't be supervising. I won't say you got to be in class. Okay, that's going to be a challenge. Are you motivated enough internally to manage yourself? Can you trust yourself to keep up and do your work on time, manage your time? Can you do those things? So that's always a challenge, because I know the temptation is to try to slough off and all that. Please go take a look at my late assignments policy, because it's pretty severe. And there really is no reason for you to be turning stuff in late when I've got it all laid out here and what you need to do. And we'll often be working ahead. So I give you some opportunities to say, yeah, I'm a self-starter. Yeah, I know how to manage my time. Yeah, I can be given a task and I'll come back with it and get it done. Because the difference between you and 95% of the people out there that'll be competing for a job or competing for a promotion will be this. No matter how smart or good they are, if they don't show up for work, if they don't get their work turned in on time, trust me, they're not going anywhere. When you don't meet a deadline in school, it's not the same as you didn't get the stuff turned in so the client had it. Because that means if your client walks on you, your boss is going to be asking some hard questions. So this is a chance, if you've had some issues of that way, to kind of grow up a little bit and get yourself rolling. So that being said, anybody have a question I could try to help you with? Okay. And some of you may find it if you've got a machine at home. Now look, if you've got an Apple, it's going to be a problem for you when we get to the Access courses. But you know, if you wanted today, if you had a computer at your dorm and you wanted to dial in and watch, you could. Or if you had to be gone or something like that. Okay. Yeah. So I want you here, but if it's not convenient for you to be here, then you don't. And you don't have to send me a cry letter and go, oh, sorry. Okay. All I know is this. I'll show you real quickly. Canvas tells me everything I want to know about what folks are doing. I'm going to go down and pick on myself here. Let's see if I can find it. There's Keith Harmon. And I can get my user details. And I can click on my analytics and I can see what I've been doing. And this just tells me just the access. How many times have I been here? So can I know if you're participating in the course or not? Absolutely. Can I know what you're looking at? Absolutely. It's all there for me to see. Just like Ed Net Nanny, make sure you didn't look at dirty pictures. And the guys on this row, you had that, but they're right. I'm teasing. I mean, you know what Net Nanny is? Really? Did your parents block your phone or software usage growing up? Merciful heavens. I got a bunch of heathens on my hands. All right. Well, since the university won't let me take up an offering, they prohibited it. They'll let me preach. They'll let me do some faith healing. Usually the faith healing is I grab someone like him and go, boy, come out of devil. I'll follow me here. But otherwise, we come to that point in time in class where I ask you a very important question. And it's this: why are you people still in this lab?
Well, you said that. All right.
I see online Wednesday. And so sorry about the heat. Yeah.
Thank you.
You betcha. See you later, guys. Woo.
Thank you very much.
I didn't see your
Oh, non-alcoholic, of course. All right. Okay, I'm stop the share.